All right. Okay. Very good. Okay. So today I'm super excited. I have Miss Desiree. How do you say the last name?
It's Cocroft.
Cocroft. Okay. And we decided to talk about boldness. Okay. What does boldness look like? We haven't pinpointed specific areas. We just said boldness. That could be in life, career, relationships. It could be in dating, spiritual life, anything. So what does boldness look like, Desiree?
I always feel like bold is almost just being able to kind of like live your truth. Like in a world where it can be intimidating to just be yourself and to say what you desire and to share that with other people. Because the internet has made us timid, I think, in some ways. It's made us bold, but it's also made us timid because we're almost afraid if you say who you are and how you feel about a thing or your opinion, you could be slandered or you could be cut off. It's cancel season, the cancel culture, right? And so I think there's something to be said about just truly owning who you are, even if it's just who you are in this season, because we're always growing. So just owning who you are, the things that you desire, what you would desire to say. I think that there's something to be said of just speaking your truth. And I feel like that's a bold move.
Yeah, I agree. And for me, boldness looks like doing something that is extremely uncomfortable, but deep down, it's going to propel you and take you to a level where you desire to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So in practical sense, in the past month or so, being bold has looked like DMing people. Like it's really as simple as that. Like going into somebody's DM because you see an opportunity or you just want to connect.
Yes.
Right. So these days we're so intimidated because we think that this person is untouchable or I can't connect with them. But it's like, well, we've been forced to stay away from each other, essentially.
Yeah.
And so at a lot of times, the only option you did have was to just pop up in somebody's messages. Or like email them or, say this is, I've been listening to what you've been saying. I've been following your work and I'm really in tune. I'm really aligned. And a lot of people get stifled by the thought of that.
Yes. It makes people cringe. And I think a lot of it has to do with worrying about the end results coming from, or worrying about their end result coming from the person in front of them. Right. So it's almost like we almost have to release our expectations of what someone else or a group of people is going to say or react to whatever we decide to say or do. Like you said, like going into DMs or connecting with people, like that has been a big thing for me as well in my business. Like I want to reach out to people, connect with people, or if I see that, there's an opportunity for collaboration or what have you, I want to reach out to them. Or just because, just for networking purposes, getting to know who's in, my social media networks or what have you, and not being tied to, oh my God, I got to pay rent next month. I hope they buy something from me. Or, oh my God, like I'm not going to ever work with anybody if someone doesn't start, buying my services. And so I was reading this book. It's called Prosperous Coach by Rich Litvin. And in it, he was saying like, hey, if you need to pay your rent, go get a job. Like go find some work, because it's a turnoff when you're in, this entrepreneurial life and you really are looking to grow your business, grow visibility, but you're thirsty than a mug to people everywhere you go.
Yes. And it comes across. That energy absolutely comes across. It'll come across in language. Listen. And I'm happy you brought that up because it's a bold thing to go get a job when you have so much passion of wanting to do coaching or consulting, like that's it, right?
Yes.
And you are laser focused on that, but you do have the reality, like you got to go get a job. But it's also bold to have the job, to be seeing results and say, you know what, I'm gonna just hop over here full time and swim over here in this full-time entrepreneurship lane pool And it's like, I think the other side of boldness is so much more uneventful in a way, as opposed to this side of boldness. So after you take the leap or you take the jump, you send the message, you make the change, you make the decision, and you act in that boldness, you realize it's not that bad. Like it wasn't as scary as like you made it out to be.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like I always think about like double dutch. Like if somebody is turning the road, you are almost afraid to jump in for a while. Like people are just trying to get the rhythm and they're trying to decide if they're going to jump in. And then once you jump in it, even if you don't get on there on beat, it's like, oh, okay, it's not that bad. I didn't get whacked by the rope.
Right.
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 I can try again. And I feel like reaching out to people, being bold and sharing your business, being consistent in these internet streets or even in the real streets, right, with who you are and what you decide to do, being okay with, sometimes it's a no, or sometimes it's like, ooh, I don't know if I kind of like that. That didn't land right. I probably shouldn't have said it that way. You just get the opportunity to practice. And I feel like it's the gift of practice. The more it's like, I feel like the no's come enough for you to get some practice in. And the people that seem like they're doing super well, it's just because they keep practicing. They keep saying stuff. They keep refining their message. It's not because every time they say something, people are buying their product. You take somebody 10 years back or what have you, they will probably tell you some of the stories that many people just starting off have to say. So I think, it's bold to stay in the game too. Like staying consistent is a bold thing because it's easy to, just stop and be feeling like, no one has, I'm not at that, that pinnacle yet. And I should have been here by now. And that's another thing, like we in a microwave society and people have very bold claims about what one should do to increase the income in their business. And I say bold claims because, they are standing in their authority about what they believe help them make money. So they want to help other people make money. And I have no knock against that. What I do think is that as consumers, as well as entrepreneurs, we need to take it with a grain of salt. Like that is their story and what they are claiming to be the way because of their experience. It doesn't mean it's the only way. It's their way. And so I think that kind of, at least for me, brought some relief because sometimes I feel like I go a little bit against the grain with the things I desire to do, regardless of what people say you need to do. And I think it's just because, hey, there are a lot of different ways. I just feel like all the entrepreneurs out there, like there's a lot of ways to make money. There are a lot of ways to do things. Be bold in what you desire to do and stick with it because something always was not existent before someone decided it was going to be a thing. Like one day Apple didn't exist, but now everybody's all over Apple. And you can pick whatever brand it is. Like somebody drummed up something and was bold enough to stick with it and make it innovative. So I just feel like it could be something to be said about us deciding to stay consistent in the thing that we are desiring to do and because we believe in it the way we believe in it.
Right. And I think going with that, it's the boldness of drowning out everybody else. But it's also, I think about the people who come along on your journey, right? Yeah. Whatever goal you have or what you're working towards or what you believe in, it's those destiny helpers that pop up out of nowhere sometimes. And depending on your personality or your experience, even, it can be bold to accept help. It can be bold to reach out for advice or, if somebody's coming in your life who's been at this such and such a years, it took me a lot of years to ask for help, or because we go into that whole super independence trauma response type life, which is a reality for a lot of people. And so we always try to protect ourselves because we don't want to reach out, or we don't believe that somebody else will actually help us without there being strings attached. So I think it's a very bold thing to do a lot of inner work, a lot of inner healing to get to the point where you realize you need people. Right.
That's big.
And that's something that a lot of and men and women that I'm speaking to, they're like, I'm realizing I gotta utilize my network. Like, I have a network. I have not utilized it. People have actually reached out to me because they want to, and I just, for whatever reason, I just don't. And I think it's a very big, bold move for somebody who has functioned like that all their life to say, I can't do this alone. I have to trust somebody. I have to believe that everybody's not out to get me. And I have to have their help to move me forward.
That's good, because I think we too are in a world where it does feel like everyone's out to get us, or it is kind of like this scarcity mindset around, competition, and that's not enough. Like, some people, even starting their businesses is a bold thing to do because everybody's businesses aren't that different than one another. The whole hope is that we're bringing this unique, spin on what we do because of our own experiences, or maybe how we present it, or how we offer our service. So even just being able to be okay with, stepping out overall, because it's so many, it can feel like a saturated market when in actuality, always been a saturated market. There's always been a lot of businesses that are similar. So it does, but those businesses still thrive. So that to me says it's a lot of money to be made, out here too. But yeah, wanting that help, because sometimes we can feel like if the world is all against me, right, that I can't trust anybody to help me do things the way that I want to do them. And I think that's where a lot of, entrepreneurs start drowning themselves too, because they feel like they got to do everything themselves. And like you said, like, we have a network of people that would be willing to help us, or will offer services in exchange with us, or all of that to really help us, meet our goals, and being able to just say we need help. Because sometimes I just feel like there's just kind of false sense of truth with people's stories. People are out here saying, they're entrepreneurs, and I'm sure they are, but in our mind it's like, oh, they must be living the best dream, they must be making X, Y, and Z, they must be whatever. And I'm not saying people are saying they are, but I think that it can be read that way, and we can read it that way and feel like, oh, they did it themselves, especially when people say, nobody helped me, and like, I was homeless for 5 months. And that might be true, and that's okay. The point is, I think that we try to make our stories not feel as great because of someone else's story. And with that, it can almost make us feel like, well, I want to do the same thing. I want to not have help. I want to do that. And it's like, you don't know what that person had to do to get where they are. They probably did get help. And they're just sharing their story from one vantage point. And that's not to diminish someone's story. I think that we see so much, we take the pieces, and when we kind of digest those pieces, all it does is fuel some of our own insecurities. In a way, doesn't help us.
And it's funny you bring that up, because I was actually listening to, and it's funny, most of the time people, when they talk about success, it's always like millionaires are successful. It's always that is always like, oh, he's a millionaire, she's a millionaire. And so I was listening to a millionaire talk, and he was like, there's no such thing as a self-made millionaire. There's absolutely no such thing. Like, there's nobody on this earth who has done everything by themselves.
That's good.
Like, what? Like, what are you saying? Right?
Yeah.
And that's the truth. And oftentimes I think there's been lately a more transparent type of person who has actually done the things, where you talk about as social media is concerned, and these podcasts out here. And one common thread that I have found recently is they all have coaches. They all have a consult, they all have a mentor. They like, so even that alone, like, no, you didn't do any of this on your own. Like, you know what I mean? If, whether it's the intellectual knowledge, it's the advice, it's the listen, it's the creating the space for you to flesh out these things. Nothing you did was on your own. So for me, when I first was introduced to the coaching space, or like saying like a coach, it was a very bold thing for me to invest.
Yeah.
And I think, coming from a coach space, but also like being a coachee, being a coach, it is a mental barrier for your first time to say, I need this level of assistance and guidance and space, right?
Mhm.
At the time I was like, oh, bet this is what I want to do. I'm in there, let's go, and it's such it's a weird way to explain how I felt when when I committed to that. I was like, I'm
Mhm.
a different type of person. Right.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was bold, honey, because you want me to go in my pockets and pay a like, you know what I mean? It's like,
Mhm.
okay. So
Right.
I'm curious, like, what was your feeling or your thought process or whatever the first time that you hired a coach?
Yeah, I can tell you 100%. I was working in nonprofit. I was a director of I have a nonprofit dance company, so I was the director of the nonprofit dance company. I was paying off my school loans. I had like
Mm,
$83,000 in debt that I was actively paying off.
mm,
And I felt like when she told me how much she was, I'm like, ooh, it was a four-figure investment. It was a four-figure investment.
mhm.
Fortunately, she gave me a significant discount for not even really a significant discount. She just gave me less. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like
Yeah.
her four-figure program is not what I got.
Yeah.
I basically got like 3 coaching sessions with her for,
Mhm.
she just changed her program for
Okay.
giving me the opportunity to help. Because I didn't ask her to change her price for me because your price is your price. Like I can't be mad at it. I was just like, like the way my life is set up, I really can't afford it right now. But what I did do, even what she offered me, wasn't what I could necessarily afford. So it just happened to be around the holidays. And people
Mhm.
asked me what I wanted for Christmas. And I was like, I need money for a coach.
That's bold.
And people gave me money. People
Yeah.
gave me money. Namely, I asked some people in my family because we do gift exchanges. And I was like, I don't want anything with money because I need a business coach.
Yeah.
And so they did that, and I was able to match it because all I could do was half of what she said
Mm.
it was. And so I was like, I could do half, but I need to come up with the rest. And so that's how I came up with the rest. And so it's so interesting because when people say things cost a lot, and I just think about you will figure it out. Like if it's something you feel like you need, you'll figure it out. Now, I needed a coach at that point because I was really questioning if I should still run the dance company, if
Mm.
I wanted to move into coaching, because I wanted to move into speaking and coaching full time. And I was starting to question if that was something I should do, or if I was turning my back on my nonprofit because I wanted to do something different. So I just had all of these blocks. And so her helping me is the reason that I'm a coach now. I'm a coach at a full-time job and on my own. And I experienced a 60% increase in my income as a
Okay.
result of working with her because she was the one that asked the right questions to help me think differently about how I was looking for other employment or how I was thinking about stepping into the space. She is the one that, kind of gave me the tools to start thinking through like, well, envision what your days would look like. What
Yeah.
kind of, there's like things I had never just stopped to think about because I just wasn't sure how to do it. And I had really talked myself out of it at some point because of shame, right? Shame and fear all at the same time. So I needed a coach and getting the money for it. I figured that thing out because I had one conversation with her and I was like, oh, I gotta find a way to keep paying for this because
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
this is really helping me get where I want to go. And I'm telling you, just the 60% increase in income alone is more than 1,000% of what more than what I paid her, way
Right.
more than what I paid.
Did you go back to her?
No, so when I moved, she actually started coaching in a full-time capacity
Mm.
at a law firm. So
Okay.
she wasn't practicing as much anymore because I did reach out to her when I got the new job and moved, and then it was just really a scheduling situation. But
Yeah.
I ended up from that point, my next coach was in, what is called coaching courses, all the things right now. And so that coaching program, I was in a different tax bracket, so I was making more money. So it was easier for me to say yes
Yeah.
prior to when I was working in nonprofit and not making as much and paying off debt. I didn't have as much, so I was asking people to help, but now I didn't really need it. I had paid off my school loans and now I'm making 60% more than I was before. I was able to afford what I paid. I think my next coach was $2,000.
Okay.
A little over $2,000.
Mm-hmm.
And so I paid that. I mean, but that was nothing for me. Like I was like, oh, okay, I got that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So I paid for that and did that. That helped me start building my group coaching program. And then that's when I started like hitting a wall because my job and my coaching programs started coming to a head. My job is very demanding.
Okay.
And so I was hitting the wall like, oh, how can I still do the things that I want to do and build it? And I think like you were saying, Mia, like when it comes to deciding what success looks like, I was coming to this place of like, is it okay if I make $10,000 in 1 year outside in my coaching business and I can say that's my success? Like I got a job and I do that. Or what do I really want to do? Do I want to like, leave my employer and start a business? I was kind of like at that crossroads because one is more demanding and I'm like, I feel like I can't get past this bracket if I don't, do something different. So when the pandemic hit, I decided to find another coach because I wasn't traveling as much anymore. And I actually went with the same coach I had before. They had another program that was accelerated, and that was $10,000. Mm-hmm. So now the prices is going up, right? Mm-hmm. Yesterday's price is not today's price.
Right.
That is $10,000. And that came with a lot of like one-on-one coaching on how to help me build a lot of the things that I needed for sharing my coaching program, whether it was a sales page, so a lot of the technical things that I wasn't really using is what I got from that program. And honestly, like the network that I met, being with other people was like half the battle, like some dope people, like doing so many different things in the world. I was so like impressed, like these are some amazing people. Right. And it's like, it's a world of people I would have never met otherwise. And so like, I feel like the network alone was, some of them I actually still keep in touch with. They're doing awesome things. And that alone was like worth all $10,000, honestly. And I still have access to it, like, but it helped me, build my webinar, know all the things. And I was doing that for a while. But again, I hit a roadblock with my job because then at this point I was trying to do it to scale. And honestly, I don't think I was really in a space to be ready for that. And so like I kind of sat on it, and that was $10,000 plus like 5,000 of additional coaching because I stretched out my coaching time, and I didn't do more, And so in between that, I mean, I spent thousands of dollars. I could go on and on, Mia, because that's not my end of my journey. And I don't regret it at all. I think more so sometimes if I could go back, I'd want to have some more time defining what success really looks like. So you talking about like that millionaire, there's no such thing as self-made millionaires. I never want to be that person to say being a millionaire doesn't have to be the goal. Because I am one, especially people of color, I really believe like, hey, we need to create wealth in our communities and all of that. And that's not the only way to create wealth. But I'm just saying like, there's a lot of streams of income to create wealth. So I never want to say that shouldn't be what you do. What I would say is like, how can we be just more strategic and more intentional about what success means like to us? And we can figure out how to do it in a way that feels good and not what we think needs to happen because this is what everybody seems like doing. Because I was making this goal to make $1 million in a year. And I'm like, do I really care? It was that. It can be 1 million, 10 million, 5 million, 100,000 more. My thing is, I want a life where I make money and I spend less time working.
Period.
That's it. Less time working, and I want high earnings. However that turns out, if it's 1 million, 5 million, 500,000, that don't bother me.
Right. Yeah, and it's I think it, like you say, it all sounds good. And I think we've been so used to hearing people just throw this terminology around, this language around, but until you get into it and you start to be exposed to the process that it takes to get some of this stuff. And so defining what success looks like for you, and then being bold enough to be okay with that and verbalizing it to people who are like, that's all you want? Like, you like, that's not you know what I mean? And being like, no, I've thought about this, I've fleshed it out, and I value my time I
Yes.
value being able to have my weekends. I value being able to have my night. I value not having to be on my phone in my bed, working and like, you know what I mean? I need a little bit of balance. Just speaking from someone who gives advice and people ask questions and coaching and honestly, okay, so
Okay, say it.
we met in a coaching program. I'm gonna say that. And we communicated with each other on Zoom privately, but in that coaching program, I'm not gonna say singled out, but I had a one-on-one experience that everybody could experience, right? And the question I had for that coach was about boldness. It honestly was, because he had tapped into somebody's body language and asked a question about that. And I was so intrigued because I was like, okay, I know you have a rapport with this person, so it's not like it's a stranger.
Right.
But where does that come from where you feel like, bottom line is, I'm very bold, right? And if you ask me a question and it's solicited advice, then be prepared, right? But I don't know if that finesse or that, so how do you finesse boldness when the point is just to get the message across, right? And that goes into your communication. That goes out feel the room, read the room. I think in our day and age, everything is so sensitive. Everything is so sensitive. Don't say this, can't say it like this. What's the title of it? Like, and so being bold in terms of communication, it's a slippery slope, especially to someone like me who's just like, look, if you ask me a question, I'm gonna give you the answer. I don't have a box of sugar here ready to pour it on. So it's when it comes to communication, boldness in 2022 and beyond, it's a tricky thing.
Yeah. It is a tricky thing. And yes, that was a very interesting he pulled you out on the carpet.
Yeah, I was like, I heard my name. I was sitting here, I heard my name. I was like, because I didn't think it was 10 people. I didn't think he was gonna call on me.
Right, like who voted? Who said it was gonna be me? Like who did it?
All right, well, let's go.
One thing, and I've learned this from him, particularly watching him, but also in another training I was in. But one is, I think, be bold without the worry. I think if you always bring it, you can be bold in your coaching practice as an entrepreneur and all of that. I think asking people first is always helpful. Like one thought I've done is, hey, I have an observation. Do you mind me sharing?
Yeah.
And then I'll share my observation. I'll be like, how does that land for you?
Right.
Because they can tell me, nope, that's not it, or I wasn't there, because then that makes me feel safe, because I'm just sharing an observation. And if you tell me that's not it, then that's fine. The other part is, so I had a potential client. So I was doing a consultation. Well, I did a coaching session with him like weeks ago, and we already decided we wanted to work together, but then we were supposed to do a follow-up call, and then our follow-up call ended up being a coaching session. So we still need to actually solidify how we're going to work together, but it's been great. Really enjoyed our conversations, but he took the time. Well, he decided he wanted to know what I thought. He was like, well, what do you think? Right. After everything I said, like, you asking me, how do I feel? Like, well, what do you think? So for me, it was my opportunity to be bold. Like, you want to hear what I think? This is what I think.
Yeah.
Like, I think you X, Y, and Z. And, he was like, yep, that's pretty it. Right. It resonated with him, but he also asked for it. So yeah. I feel like that's helpful too. Like, but even if people don't ask, especially if we feel led to say a thing, I think asking for permission still is helpful. What I hate is when people be like, excuse me for what I'm about to say. And it's just like, don't do that. Don't do that. Or they be like, no offense. Like, no, this must be about to be offensive. Like, don't
And
say that.
I would think as grown-ups, we would know that already.
Yes,
If you hit me
this
with
was a
that,
grown up.
if you hit me with that, it's in meeting for all, because it's not gonna be good from that point. Cause it's like,
not pretty.
you already know you coming with,
Something wrong. Just wrong.
you already fleshed that out. Don't play.
Yeah, exactly. But yes, I feel like, hey, I got an observation. Just, I mean, because if we're coaching someone, or if you're in a consulting business, whatever the case is, like, we have their best interest in mind. So it's not like you saying anything that, like, yeah, you're not saying anything that you're looking to hurt them. You are looking to help. And they can decide if it doesn't land for them, or if that's something they don't want to work on. That's what that subsequent question is for. It's like, okay, well, you want to work on it, but at least you were true to yourself and you were able to say what was on you. Because I hear you, it is an interesting world. But observing him and other people that we've seen that's been bold, even when we consider ourselves being bold, it's like, yo, in those situations, I love the outcomes of
It's so
being
beautiful.
able to do it. It is, and we can't lose that.
It's so beautiful. I'm not gonna hold you too much longer, because I know the waves are waiting for
the waves are in the background somewhere.
But I want to address this.
Yeah.
As two Black women, in North America in 2022, there's a million ways I can go with that intro.
I know. I was like, where are we going? Where are we going, man?
I'm gonna keep it
Kosher, politically correct.
Yeah. I'm thinking in terms of me and my hair, and how long it actually took me to commit to locking my hair.
Okay.
I've been wanting to lock my hair since 2012 when I lived in Korea. And I was like, no, that's not, I want to, but I can't.
Yeah.
Right. And I finally did it 2019, or it was August.
Okay.
2000, and I really want to say 19. I'm gonna say 19. Yeah, okay. It was 19, because yes, it was 19. But that was a bold thing for me. And at the time, I was working in a setting where I was the only Black person.
Okay.
And anybody who has started their locks and gone through the process knows how them locks look when you first start the process. So when you talk about hair and beauty in terms of Black women, and now we are just so unapologetic with our texture, how it looks, even the colors, the length, I don't know your history in terms of your hair, but was there a turning point for you? Because like I said, it was like, listen, and the turning point for me was I kept getting interlocks that were locks. Okay. So I kept buying locks, putting the locks in my hair so I could look like I had locks. And I said, honey, okay? So that was a turning point. It was like, listen, just stop. Okay. So that was my moment of bold. But how does that register for you in terms of boldness and who you are and your beauty?
Yeah, I feel like, so I haven't had a relaxer since 2000. So I was in college. I went to a historically Black college. Halfway through, I went to a predominantly white college prior to, but when I transferred, I went there and it was in a very warm state. I'm not gonna not say my college name. I went to Hampton University in Hampton, Virginia. Okay. Go Pirates. Okay. It was in Virginia, so it was hot. And I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I was previously at Marquette University, which is a colder spot. Right. And so when I went down there, wearing my hair straight, it's hot. And so I stayed down there. I think I went to a beauty salon a couple of times, and then I think I went once and I felt like my hair was over processed. And that was kind of like my decision right there. It was like a no-brainer. I was like, first of all, it costs too much to go get my hair done and I'm in college. Second of all, I know that there are people that are dorm beauticians, However, I wasn't comfortable with that. I was used to actually going to someone to do chemical things. And so I just decided to grow it out. It was plenty of people that had unrelaxed hair on campus, plenty of people that will braid your hair up, twist it up for $20.
Right.
This is the late 90s. So it was like, it was nothing. So I did that, and it was cool for me. Like, I felt very free. I'm on a historically Black college campus. I was a business major, and there was a big deal about guys in locks more than women in locks. So it was a little bit of sexism, I would say, in some of the business school about guys wearing their hair. It was more of a stigma with men, specifically Black men, keeping their cut low or keep their cut fresh. Then with women, we had a lot more freedom, so to speak. So we watched some guys did keep their locks. So after a while, they were like, well, keep the locks, just make sure they're neat. Whatever neat means, because people have free locks and all of that. And so there were a lot of conversations there, but the proof is in the pudding when people were still getting hired. I think our campus was concerned about people not being able to get hired.
Hampton was cold. Hampton was cold. I had a friend who was I went to her graduation at Hampton, but she would tell me that you can't wear scarves on the campus. You couldn't wear, and I was like,
unless it was we could wear hair wraps. So if it was like a hair wrap, like if we had like an African or whatever, it don't even have to be Black History Month. Like I used to wear hair wraps all the time when I didn't do my hair. So like you could wear a hair wrap, you couldn't wear do-rags or scarves or bonnets outside.
Right.
Yeah, they be like, you can't be out here with that outside, but you could wear hair. Yeah, people wear hair wraps all the time, but you couldn't do scarves and bonnets. Scarves I think are fine. Like if you had a scarf on, it was a part of your, like I had a fro. So I would wear a scarf as my headband. Like I wasn't in trouble for that. It was when you looked like you was going to bed outside. They didn't play those games.
Yeah.
That was really more there, but they were one of the few HBCU campuses that I recall that had a pretty strict dress code. Like you couldn't have midriffs, like all the things. And I'm coming from Arcade where they don't care about anything. Like it's just like they don't care, people do whatever they want to do. And it's such a double standard in so many ways. That's a whole nother conversation. But if I wanted to stick on hair, so there was a lot of conversation about our hair, and students, kind of like jumped up against it, like, look, this is my hair dirty or whatever. So they were chill. They were just more of like, okay, well, we want to make sure that people get whatever job they desire. Like, we just want to make sure whatever options you want, you have those options, and you're not being discriminated against because of your hair. It's unfortunate that that's the conversation you had to have. I just know that if I was in a PWI or I can't say it all of a sudden, predominantly white school, that was never a conversation that they would have with us. They would never say it. So I appreciate the realities of it. It sucked. Some people can say assimilation and all things. I just think that there were some people concerned about us not having opportunities because of our hair, which sucks that we got to have this conversation. We're like adults. But I had locks. A year for like 6 or 7 years. I had locks while I was still there. And it was fine. Like I got internships. Even when I was even conscious, and they didn't have a problem with people having natural hair. Obviously, there was plenty of people with Afro puffs and all the things. But even getting an internship, I had an internship at Coca-Cola, and for my interview, I hot combed my hair
with locks.
No. Before I got locks. I said even with an afro, like I was still not sure how I'd be treated at an interview. So I flat ironed my natural hair and went to my interview. I got hired, but then while I was there, I wore my afros, my braids, all the things. And then there was somebody else. It was a guy. He got hired and he had locks. So I think more so back then, it depended on the company and the industry. Like some people that were in finance, they were like, we don't know, like these top organizations might not be feeling that. But people that were in marketing and more fun type of business, it seemed like it was more open. Definitely things have clearly changed a lot more over the years. I know that, there is in some places still a stigma about our hair, but I think it depends on where you go. I love locks. I love when I had them. The only reason I cut them is they got heavy, and I was tired of it. And I'm a dancer. I had a dance company, so like it was just a lot of heavy hair. That's the only reason I cut them off. I consider doing it again, but I enjoy my locks. I really loved having them, and I never felt like I didn't get opportunities as a result of them. But I also did not go corporate right out of college either. I was a nonprofit, and it's a lot more socially acceptable, in my opinion, when you're working in social services.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's funny. I went to Syracuse, big up, but which is all PWI all day. But we did have the African American Studies department, and I was lucky enough to have, I'll say five professors who really cared, right? They took the time, they would put us up on game, they would talk to us like, sit down, and like, you know what I mean? That type of, so I got it through those five professors. Looking back, and this is a whole nother podcast, I might have chosen Howard because I got into Howard.
I'm so sorry. That's cool though. Yeah. That's not, it's fine. You know, it's all love. It's all love.
I'm not getting in y'all battle.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's a great thing because now I see a lot more companies like not even being concerned and actually, I don't want to say welcoming it because they're not going to be like, oh, you have like come, but I mean, they're much more open to it. It's not as stigmatized. And I think that's a beautiful thing overall. But just closing out, I'm thinking about the rest of the year. I'm thinking about 2022, and I'm thinking about what we want to happen, right? What we want to happen in our lives, how we want things to change, how we want things to end up looking when it's December 31st, and you look back and it's like, okay, what is transpired? Yeah. So I'm asking the question of, what does Desiree looking bold in 2022 look like, right? Ooh. And so I will go. So yeah, you go first. Mia being bold in 2022 looks like sending more emails, sending more DMs, reaching out for opportunities that I don't think that I am qualified for. Right now, looking for an employment that makes sense, right? A lot of the times we're forced into situations where we just have to get something. But I want to be bold and be like, no, I like this. I want to be here. I want this network. I want to be around these people, and being bold enough to say, that's for me. I want that, you know, whatever the situation may be. Being bold for me in terms of like social life is, if I see somebody who interests me, I'll spark up a conversation. It's nothing, right? Where you would have never caught me that. So it's not being afraid anymore. It's not being afraid of people and like what I think they're going to respond saying, or, you know what I mean? And it's getting back to the boldness that I used to have in like high school. Like I was like, you know, because I didn't really know life yet. You know what I mean? It was like, yeah. Oh man, I was queen bold. So I think a part of that is refreshing when I look back, and you know what I mean? Because it was so freeing and it was fun. I have more tact now, but it's just really going for it. It's going for it because you realize, unfortunately, with all the things that have happened recently, you know, nothing is promised to anybody, not even tomorrow. So it's like, you know, with that mindset, it's, well, what have you not experienced today that you would regret not being able to? Yeah. And who have you not talked to who you had an opportunity to? Like, everybody's an email away, right? Everybody's a message away, especially if they're on any of these platforms. And so I guess in short, me being bold is lessening and limiting the degrees of separation from anybody that I want to connect with.
I love that. I think we're really aligned, Mia. Like, I feel like being bold for me this year is being consistent across a lot of different areas. Like the boldness is the consistency for me. So the consistency of talking to my audience, whether that's on YouTube, whether that's on LinkedIn, whether that's in real life with my real life connections, whether that's my email list, whether that's IG Reels,
right.
Being consistent in the things that feel good to me. Like it feels good. Like I enjoy it a lot of times. And sometimes I've resisted flow. And so it's like, no, I don't want to resist flow. I want to be consistent in the flow of things that I enjoy, that I know will lead to results, but they only lead to results in the consistency over time. And so I want to be consistent in reaching out, sharing message. I desire to be or continue to be a thought leader in the space that I desire to be one in. And so I'm like, I know that's going to take consistency. So for me, being bold would be consistent. And I feel like consistency will lead to results versus like, I got to have X, Y, and Z this year. And it's like, nope, I'm going to just focus on what's in front of me. My next steps is what I said I was going to be doing on a regular, whether that's daily or weekly basis. And if I just keep being consistent, then those results will be yielded. I think beforehand, past me has been focused on those results. Like, why don't I see these things? Well, it's clear, like you don't see these things because you're not consistent, or your consistent is not consistent enough. You know what I mean? Like I'll stop the train and it's like, that's the problem. I stop the train, and then when I stop the train, I have a cycle of, I'm scared to get back on the train because it's been so long since I've been on the train. But it's just like riding a bike. Once you start again, you get going again. So my whole goal is to not stop, to keep going. And as I keep going, I just feel like that'll help me see more of what I desire to see. And I know a part of consistency is me saying no to things that don't align with those things that I want to be consistent in. So I get to say no to more things because, like you said earlier, way earlier, I desire to be someone that is fulfilling my dreams without working 80 hours a week. And so as long as I have this full-time gig, everything that I do outside of it can't be more than, what I do with my job. I can't be working another full-time gig. So less money, higher earnings. And then, over time, if it ends up being something that keeps me from having to work a full-time job, I'm here for it. But until then, I'm okay with what I'm doing right now. It's just my job to be consistent.
Yeah, that's good. I'm gonna adopt a little bit of that too, the consistency, because it's key. And I think I know I have always stopped because I haven't seen the results that I feel should have materialized already, but you ain't been putting in no work. So how you?
Same. I'm here with it.
Yeah. So, but I've really enjoyed this. Thank you.
Me too. This is so much fun.
It was. We'll have to do another one, but I'm gonna let you get to those waves.
Okay? I appreciate it.
Enjoy your time.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.